All right, give me 1 sec. Let me move my. What do you think, Shay?
Stop it with the notes. Stop it.
So creepy.
All right, here we go. Let's go.
So my quote was love is one, and there's actually so much that I'm gonna have to go as fast as possible here.
I like how you said it's my fault.
Well, it's not.
Wow.
Okay, so this is a lady right here. Her name is Amy Carlson, and she was born in Dallas, Texas. And kind of the way it got started is as she was growing up, she was like getting into those like new age philosophy and stuff, and joined an online internet forum called lightworkers.org, where she met somebody. And anybody who's been on any internet forum knows that usually does not end well. So she met somebody, and this Amaranth White Eagle convinced her that she was divine. And so he started calling her Mother God or Mama G. So she's going to be Mama G for the rest of the presentation.
Just so you know, that'd be a very good question on the test.
Mama G.
That's like a big thing.
No, that's what they actually call her. Mama G, Mother God. So the quote, how it kind of started is at the time, Amy Carlson was she was a mother of 3, and she was working a job as a manager at McDonald's. And this Amaranth person convinced her to leave her 3 children and her job and go to Colorado from Texas to start what originally was called the Galactic Federation of Light. And they started a YouTube channel that they posted daily streams on and YouTube videos to help recruit members. And so she was apparently some 19 billion-year-old being who's been reincarnated 534 times. She has been Jesus, Joan of Arc, Marilyn Monroe, and Cleopatra. And one of her lives, Donald Trump was her father. She also apparently had an experience of talking to the spirit of Robin Williams, who was apparently an angel from I think it was a Jewish religion, I think. And so their belief system was mostly New Age philosophy and conspiracy theories, which included reptoids and Atlantis and crystal energies. They also believed that she would lead 144,000 people. That's it. Exactly 144,000 people to the 5th dimension. Apparently there was a cabal that helped keep the world at a low vibration state, whatever that means. And apparently Donald Trump was secretly fighting against this secret society. They were against alcohol and drugs, which will come up later. And they also believed in colloidal silver, which is kind of like suspending silver particles in water and ingesting it as a cure for COVID-19. So
when did it get weird?
Well, so the way they recruited people is daily YouTube live streams that they use to promote new age products, to encourage donations, and vitamin supplements, which we all know vitamin supplements are never a scam. Never. Also, they offered etheric surgery, which is supposed to cure you of diseases and cleanse all your negative energy. And it costs $88 per session. And that's not a scam at all. No scams. So yeah, that's her. So there was a lot of people talk about physical abuse in the cult. There's also everybody talked about they only were like allowed to get 3 to 4 hours at most sleep per night. There was also accusation of brainwashing, and in May of 2020, there was like some report of somebody who was like wandering around like the woods, naked and hungry and sleep deprived, and they were a member of this cult, and that was why. Also, stuff I learned out after I made the slide was there was also accusations of her locking a child in a closet and yelling at her to surrender. Yeah. Oh, and another thing they also did was it was this thing, this ritual they called Find the Whore. It's where they put everybody together and they all criticize one person, and they usually just make them cry. So, ah. And so one of the big stories happened in Hawaii when in August of 2020, they tried to move the cult to Kauai, which is an island of Hawaii, and they got the people there. They had like this big mansion rental like on the beach, and the people of Hawaii, she claimed to be the Hawaiian goddess Pele, and the people of that island came and protested. They like vandalized their rental car. They started fires around the property. They like all like were around the property like saying Hawaiian prayers. So then they tried to set up in Maui after they left Kauai, but the police were like, no, go back to Colorado. We do not want you.
Go back.
And they sent them away. And so that was later at like kind of the time of her death. And she died. They found the body in April 28th of 2021. They found it was like a mummified corpse that was in a sleeping bag that was wrapped in Christmas lights in like this trailer park. Her eyes were missing, which was kind of weird. And also, they decided that the main part of her death was alcohol abuse, anorexia, and colloidal silver ingestion. Oh, colloidal silver cures everything, apparently, except not. So, post-death, her followers claimed that she had ascended to another life. So what the original website was taken offline, and it was the quote was kind of rebranded as 5D Full Disclosure. And Jason Castillo, which was the father god at that time, which kind of Amy Carlson had a lot of people she called Father God, but apparently it was all the same person. It's just Father God's natural energy wasn't enough for just one body, so it was split up into multiple different vessels. So that's what happened, and he broke off after this happened and started this other cult. I think it's called Joy Reigns, and that's
Love this one.
it.
How many
Yep.
members do they have total?
I couldn't find that. I think it said at the time of her death there was 20 people like staying with her at the time, but they definitely had like I think there's like 75,000 followers on the YouTube. Yeah.
And one now.
Yeah. Of course.
All right, good job. Well done. Good start. Yeah, that's truly a wild one. That's it. All right, who would like to go next? You feel better when I just pick? I'm just kidding. You're up.
What? Like, pretty
Go.
sick, right? It's pretty Fitzgerald.
Is it the left?
What color highlighter?
There we go.
Okay.
Awesome, Mike.
whatever.
The mic.
You choose.
The mouth is up there. Give me one sec.
18 of these.
Yeah.
That's boring.
What?
All right. Here we go. Let's go.
Okay, so Christianity according to the Romans. And kind of just like a PSA. So this isn't like a cult like everyone else's where the leader's super crazy and kills people and all that fun stuff. This is basically just like, the religion, but the worst part is how the Romans treated the Christians. And I'll get into that in a second. So, the formation of the religion starts off with this super cool guy, Jesus Christ, and he was a Jewish teacher at the time and was a healer. He sort of created Christianity. I'm not going to explain that too much because there's other stuff to talk about, but similar to other cult leaders, he was pretty charismatic, but not in a crazy way. He was pretty encouraging and welcoming to people into Christianity, and very interesting. He had a lot of humility, so he kind of wanted to be on the same level as everyone who believed in Christianity. And I think it said that he wanted to be a servant like everyone else. He didn't think of himself as above everyone else. The beliefs of Christianity are salvation, so after death, eternal life, and then the most important part that kind of sets Christianity away from like the Roman religion is that one God is better than many. And I find this really funny because the Romans kind of wanted to believe in the Roman religion, but they kind of wanted to adapt Christianity into that. And I think of that as like collecting Pokemon cards. Not that I collect those, but it's kind of like, they have all these gods and goddesses and they're like, you know what, let's just add one more to the pile. So that's kind of what they did, and also like collecting figurines, I guess. So, and also because Christianity was pretty new at the time, it's pretty unknown. They had a lot of flexibility in what Christianity was. And then because of the Romans not liking the Christians, they crucified Jesus, which wasn't very good for them. But after that, he passed on his power down to his apostles, mainly Peter and Paul. And Paul was a good dude, and he walked like those are them. I don't know who's who, but Paul walked like 10,000 miles to kind of preach about Christianity. They got a pretty wide audience, but there was a lot of death that I will also get to. So the Roman Empire's problem. First of all, Christianity was new and they didn't know much about it. And the Romans thought that the Christians were trying to like overthrow the empire somehow. And so they're very suspicious of them. But you may be wondering, but what about the Jews, But the Romans sort of respected them to an extent because they had already developed their religion and all that fun stuff. And it also talked about in one of my articles that the Jews like abided by the Roman law, but I didn't find anything that said Christianity didn't. So, interesting. And so with a problematic Roman Empire, there has to be problematic emperors. So Nero Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus was an emperor from 54 to 68 AD. This is what he looks like. Interesting dude. And basically the main problem that he had was there was this really disastrous fire in Rome, and everyone was like, what are you going to do about it? And instead of, taking the blame or figuring out what to do with it because he was an emperor, he blamed the Christians for it. And then that caused them to be, tortured, crucified, killed, all that great stuff. And then that happened in 64 AD. But then at the end of at 68 AD, he committed suicide because he, everyone kind of turned against him and he didn't like that, I guess. And then Decius, he was a leader from 249 to 251 AD. This is pretty interesting. He required everyone in the Roman Empire to produce a certificate that was signed by Roman officials saying that they sacrificed to the Roman gods. I don't know how you would sort of abide by that and be like, oh yeah, you totally were sacrificed. But basically they did that to weed out all the Christians, and more death came, obviously. Attack.
Hey.
Okay.
And then.
Yeah.
That meant you're south.
That makes more sense. The article did not say that. So the punishments. There was over 7 million Christians were killed during the time in the Roman Empire. So there's a long list. So just stay in your seats because it's pretty crazy. So a lot of the bishops, they were kind of threatened. And some of them tried to run away, but most of them were eliminated. There was a lot of mutilation, so where they would just cut off parts of your body. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun. You were burned alive, crucified, with Jesus. This is interesting. They would put like wild beast, like carcasses on you and then feed you to wild dogs. They would also feed you to half-starved lions. Just a lot of death. They also would hack at you until you died. The Roman Empire did not like Christians. But the positive, how could there be a positive in all of this death? Well, it ended in 313 CE when it became the official state religion in the Roman Empire. So, yay, go Christians! So we can thank Constantine for that. So good for him for sort of ending that. And yeah, it's just very interesting that Christianity went through all of that hardship, and now they are the most practiced religion in the world. And then it's on my sources.
What happened to the other religion?
Which ones?
So after they being Christian, they used to do that same thing.
Oh, yes.
Oh, let me. That's it. Well, the thing about the Jews, you said that they weren't evangelical. They
Mhm.
didn't try to recruit.
Yeah,
Christian, really.
yeah.
These much equal. All right. So, and you did good job. All right. Another one. Two good ones. Way to start. All right.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Get rid of this one.
You're right.
Are there any volunteers who want to go, or should I just pick one? I'm picking Happy Science.
We all
This is happy, nothing but pure joy. Right?
It's all so happy. All right, I'm doing happy science. All right, the origin, it is a Japanese cult started by this guy, Ryuho Kawa, Tokyo. It began October 6, 1986, and I think it was declared as an official, 1991 was when it was declared an official, like, religious group by Japan. Start off with some statistics about the cult. First one overseas in 1994, and now it's established in 166 countries, which I think is not true at all. I think it's closer to like, I don't know, in my head, I'm thinking like 20 maybe, but yeah,
So this is from their web.
this is from their webpage, yes. Ryuho has said there was 12 million members, but I think his ex-wife and son, who both left, I'll talk about the son later, they say it's closer from like anywhere from like 10 to 30,000. Yeah. And then approximately 45 million in revenue per year. So they're getting big bucks. All right, so leader himself, he was born as Tachi Nakagawa in 1956. He worked as a businessman in Tokyo and I think on Wall Street too, yeah. And yeah, the way he talks, it's a lot of flowery language you'll see in his speeches, where it's just kind of like very general and vague advice. Just be happy. If you're sad, don't. Like, yeah. Yeah, and in his speeches, he definitely checks off the box of like super charismatic and confident and like, you can trust me, guys. I know the truth and the way. Oh, also another thing about him, according to his son, when he was a kid, his brother was like a lot better at everything than him, like more athletic. He was smarter pretty much, so he developed an inferiority complex, which led him to want like more control over things and led him to start this in the first place. All right, here's where the fun begins. So Okawa, apparently he is a god named El Cantare, which is like the light of the earth. It's from Venus, by the way, of course. And he channels the voice of just any historical figure you can think of. Jesus, Buddha, Confucius, Freddie Mercury, any celebrity you like. Also, one article said that he channeled the voice of Obama, even though Obama's like still kicking. So like, I guess he can do it for a lot of people too. But yeah, apparently they teach like love and happiness and peace and joy and all just positive things. And they do it through like meditations and like online and in-person kind of speeches and sermons led by Riho. And yeah, they also have a lot of books. I'll talk about that in
That's
like
El Cantare.
El Cantare, yeah. Yeah, and they just believe in, you know, the whole 9 yards of cults, reincarnation, angels, demons, afterlife, aliens, just all of it. Yeah, they sell a lot of stuff. They gotta have some way to make their 45 million per year. Yeah, in 2020, they sold spiritual vaccines where I think you could pay online. I think it was like 80 or some bucks. I don't know exactly, but they would pray for you and they would cure you of COVID if you just gave them money. Good deal. Ryuho Okawa himself has over 3,100 books published, and a lot of them are just transcripts of like the thing of his speeches. But yeah, that guy is writing all the time apparently. No ghostwriters here. No, it's all him. But yeah, they also have a happy sign like multiple anime based around the cult. So if you're feeling like watching some of those. Go for it, I guess. Oh yeah, they also have a political party. It's not very big at all, but yeah, they're super far right. They're pro-Japanese militarization. They want, bigger army, bigger weapons, and yeah, they deny historical events. I think it's the Nanjing massacre of when they went into China and did some not good things to people there. They just said, no, that didn't happen, guys. Don't worry. And yeah, they also support Russia in invading Ukraine. So yeah, thankfully there are no representatives in the Japanese government, but I think they're still trying. So yeah. Happy Science facilities. They have a university. So if you're feeling like getting a degree in happy science, you know the place to go. They have these things called Shoshinpans or shojas, which are pretty much just like the temples where Riho goes and like leads his sermons and stuff. They also have the Happiness Realization Party headquarters, if you ever want to go visit that. Yeah. All right, here's his son. His name's Hiroshi Okawa, and he was a member from, I think, late teens to like mid-20s, I'd say. And he actually got to be like pretty high up in the cult because no nepotism there, guys. I wonder how his son was able to reach such a high position. But yeah, he left in 2018, and ever since then, he's like very much said, "Oh, guys, I realize this is a cult. Like, I think I've known this. That the thing that believes in Venusian gods and Freddie Mercury being channeled into a voice of man is a cult." Whoa! Yeah, right now he's a YouTuber and actor and director. I think he just finished directing his first drama series. That's pretty cool. Yeah. What else? Yeah. Yeah. Isn't someone here doing Island Shinrikyo as their cult? Someone doing that? No?
He's not.
No, he's not here. Okay, well, they had a rivalry with that cult because in the 80s, a bunch of like, there were, yeah, for various like social reasons, a bunch of cults starting appearing, small religious groups. A lot of them didn't get as big as this one, and I'm sure you go. But basically, I guess my dude criticized Shoko Asahara, the leader of Aum Shinrikyo, and said, "Hey, you guys, you don't have the right rituals." And then he said, "Oh, you haven't undergone pretty much like monk training. You're not enlightened." And this rivalry heated up through like the early 90s, and eventually Aum Shinrikyo tried to, or like plotted to kill Riho Okawa with nerve gas in his car's AC. And I won't spoil, but that's leading up to something happening. And something big's coming a month after this. So yeah, I got this picture from a website that I honestly don't trust, and that's what they said it was, but it might not be. It could just be some completely different. I don't know. I just need this picture. I'm honest. I'm truthful. Yeah. Overall, very culty. Yeah, to join, you have at minimum a $10 membership donation, but if you want to be a true devotee, there's a $100 tier that you can get.
$100?
$100 in your devotee. And yeah, they sell scams. They offer very generic advice to problems. Like I said, they just literally say, if you're depressed, just don't be. So yeah, it's just a businessman trying to get money and gain power. What's going on with this bit?
I don't think it's that big. Good one. All right. Shall we do a little bit of? I'm thinking
Here's how we play.
for the solar temple.
They shoot out flowers. Confetti.
We did ask him if we could use Jokerman, by the way. This left side. Basically, yeah. No. Solar Temple. Basically, the Solar Temple is kind of like this religion. Kind of, like it usually cultish things, combines various things. Very 1984, So the thing is, they want to be a little bit different. So you decided, let's Templar. We like them. Decided to like kind of base the religion off an actual kind of like beliefs of the next empire. I think we did that. Kind of had that as like the theme of their religion. Kind of started off in like Canada, France, and Switzerland. And various places, but eventually kind of more coalesced into Switzerland. Yeah, I think there's in the group. As far as beliefs go, basically, doomsday cults. Yeah. The usual doomsday thing. Preparing humanity for the second coming. The usual. The nice thing about them though is the new members were in fact united. Which is, I don't know about you, but good way to go in. Besides leaders, funny thing about that. First I had a picture of Jim Jones because they're both wearing glasses, but I got a picture now then. Yeah, basically, yeah. As far as numbers go, got Mr. DiMondro, big name himself. Got Luke Jure, like the big, like cool face guy. Got more DiMondro with the child, I guess. It's concerning if you know what floats are like. Yeah. I guess DiMondro, like big, like actual like leader guy, it's like the help from the patrols. Luke Jure. Yeah, most of the face. And then they kind of got together when they decided to come up with this idea about combining all this stuff like Golden Lake, find Knights Templar, matching them together, make a totally normal business that does not launder money or anything whatsoever. Cool.
Okay, yeah, so, who and what did they want? So for what they wanted from you, they wanted your money, pretty much it. Yeah, if you had money, they wanted you. They also wanted strong people who will be able to survive the coming apocalypse. Because, you still need people in order to, have cults and do things and stuff. It's very important. So, gotta be smart, quick-witted, gotta be able to survive. Very important stuff.
Funnily enough, they were in fact people who had like pretty high salaries.
Yeah, they had like a bunch of doctors, engineers, stuff like that. So for the structure, so for like recruiting, they had like large public gatherings. Luc Jure actually like went on radio shows and actually like hosted them and recruited more members that way. Then once you got in, there were 3 tiers that you could go through. So the first tier was the Amanta Club, and that was where you're first knighted. You get your fancy robe with a red cross on it and a white cape. Very cool stuff. Then if you earn enough favor, you can get to the Arcadia Club, and that's for more esteemed people. They get more religious secrets and fancy stuff like that. Then you get to the International Knighthood Organization. They're the top dogs. They're the best of the best. They get all the religious secrets. Yep. And it's estimated they had between 140 and 500 members in the 21st century.
It's all going well. Things are going well. Yeah, until the thing was often in their actual sermons, like the big man, you remember from before. Well, I like to didn't really exactly perform miracles. He tried his best via holograms. Yeah, especially 1500s kind of figure out what's going on, figured out, hey, it's kind of weird. Isn't it kind of weird how this guy is kind of sort of like a couple of people that have been doing this kind of weird stuff recently. People kind of started to present a little bit more, kind of starting to realize what's going on. So at that point, we kind of started to realize, hey, I think I'm some stuff going on. They're about to start leading. As well, wrap things up. I was really decided to do the. I think you know what happens next. Yeah. It's basically on October 5th, 1994, 23 member, or there's a night of fires that started in a village called Cheray. In, I believe it was, Switzerland. Yeah, so it's called Cheray. Don't say Cheray or anything, and it's Just in case, yeah, just saying it. Yeah. That's, I suppose, and they discovered this house is burning down. They're a little bit worried, a little bit weird about it. So checked it out once the fire was out. Discovered, I think I can find like actually, and autopsies and that they discovered people in this place they're sedated and they're shot to police. Very nice. Later that day, there's this place in Savannah, which is like kind of down the road a little ways. Had about 3 members, kind of got poisoned, so I guess, yeah, that's it. That's about it. I guess later they kind of discovered also that like they were burning out incendiary bombs, which is probably like 4 weeks to go out. So,
Yeah, both of these are towns in Switzerland, and they're very close to Geneva, where the cult was originated.
yeah.
They're about 100 miles apart.
Yeah. Also, if you look up, Curie, we'll find a picture of that guy who's right there. It's remembered.
So in the Vercors Mountains in France, this happened about a month or 2 after the events in Cherie. 16 people were found up in the mountains in a circle with their feet pointed inward. Their bodies had been burned and they had been shot. So just 16 members of the cult, they had just driven up there. There were 3 little girls under the age of 10, and yeah, they were just there with them. They determined that 2 of the members shot and killed the other 14, including the 3 little girls, and then they shot themselves after lighting everything on fire. And immolation means that fire, important stuff. In Saint Casimir, pretty much the same thing as Sherry, but this one was just one house instead of an entire village. So this one happened in Quebec, Canada. 5 members decided to kill themselves with fire. They kind of just like gathered at one member's house and just kind of set the building on fire. After the police got there, they noticed that the shed behind the house wasn't actually burned down, and so they went to check it out, and they found 3 kids that were the kids of one of the couples that died in the house. They were aged 13, 14, and 16, and they had all been heavily drugged when they were just in the shed. Yeah, or is it? This child is important. He is the Antichrist, according to De Mombro.
Thank you.
So that is Emmanuel Dutoit. He is the kid of Antonio and Nikki. Emmanuel means God with us. So in the Solar Temple cult, they have like a prophecy of Jesus coming back as a solar God King, and De Mombro wanted that title to go to one of his kids because cult leader, more influence. But because they named their kid God with us, he saw that as competition, and competition needs to be eliminated. So he convinced about 15 other people to go to their house, and they went and they stabbed all of them to death, including Antonio and Nikki and Emmanuel, to death with a wooden stake. They really didn't like Antonio. He was stabbed in the back like 50 times or something like that. Very nice stuff. And then they burned the house. They're professional by now. This happened before Sherry kind of slides out the word on that. And yeah, we're excited.
Are there any left?
Well, it said there's about 140 to 500 today.
So they filled around and just go around.
Yeah, I think it said that they were still active.
Not like
Yeah,
no,
that's what
but
they think so will be nice, and then they got into that. All right, good. When that happened, that was pretty I do remember though. Larson. We do a little 12 drive. All right, go.
All right, the cult that I did is called the 12 Tribes. So just some origins of the tribe. It started as like a youth group, essentially, like a religious group with teens from like ages like 12 to 19. It started in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it started during a movement called I think it was called like the Jesus Lives movement or something. It was during the 1970s, and it gained a lot of members. And they sort of started their base of operations started in Tennessee in the Yellow Deli, and this is a picture of it. It's just sort of a few places. And they quickly became obvious that they were like different than conventional religions, even though they said most of the same stuff, like it was pretty much just pseudo-Christian. But they began performing their own baptisms and electing their own elders, and they often do this in public areas such as parks. So it gained some mild local media attention. And then as the group grew, like about 8 years later, in like around 1980, they expanded to Georgia and Alabama. And due to some criminal charges that I'll get into later, they moved their bases of operations to Vermont, and they continued to gain media attention, particularly from anti-cult groups. And then eventually they'd go international, and this is by the late 1990s, early 2000s. The cult has expanded to Canada, Spain, Australia, Germany, Australia, and the UK. And yeah. And so they do have some beliefs. It's mostly aligned with Christians, but they do have some kind of quirky beliefs. They believe that people are born with a collective conscience, and that a second coming is imminent. And that's pretty common in a lot of cults, that there's going to be an immediate second coming. And that's sort of a way that you can recruit people out of fear of this coming. And they believe that damned souls will be cursed to a lake of fire for eternity. And this picture is from the official 12 Tribes website, in which they believed that there was originally a huge statue on top of the earth that blew away. I know. And so some of their controversies, so ever since pretty much from the get-go, ever since they withdrew from like mainstream Christians, they've got a lot of negative attention. And so mostly the controversies that they've gotten have been for their teaching styles. So like, for example, they teach that Black people should embrace slavery. They are heavily anti-Semitic. And so pretty much just all of the discriminatory teachings that you can do, they cover all of them. And all right, let's get into the crimes, which is almost more so than a cult. I'd argue that the 12 Tribes is more of a criminal organization, if anything. So they've been the subject of investigations over child abuse, child labor, trafficking, and child endangerment. It's said that they, many witness accounts, here's a quote, kids were supposed to be quiet, and they weren't. And when they weren't, physical restraint over their bodies and mouths was expected. This is from somebody who escaped the cult, but they did hit their children. That's part of some of their core beliefs in education. And they also don't allow children to go to college or seek any higher education, so they really try to heavily censor them, which is also common in a lot of cults. And so there's been various investigations in this is sort of when the cult was still pretty young. In June 22nd, 1984, 112 children were recovered from a facility in Vermont. And this is one of the main elders of the cult with some children. And so that was a big investigation in the 80s. And in 2013, this is in Germany. There's 40 children that were rescued. And there's been smaller groups like that, like a dozen, but they've in various different countries they've recovered small amounts of children. All right, and so there are other crimes include they've been linked to suspicious deaths. They've found dead infants buried around some of their facilities, and they also started a fire in Colorado, and this is their fire that they caused. That's fun. And then the current state, so the 12 Tribes is still active with 3,000 members. They're under numerous investigations. I think they're under 3 current investigations, only one of which is in the United States, the other one's in Germany, and the other one's in Australia. And then they continue to make publications. So they have podcasts, they have pamphlets, they have like a YouTube channel, they have everything. And this is actually the cover for one of their podcasts, which is it's a pretty amazing podcast. And if you want to join the cult, you can go to www.12tribes.org if you're interested. And we're excited.
You're not. Well, what about the yellow deli?
Well, so that was, I looked into that a little bit. That was like their sort of, base of operations for the beginning and during, when the movement was still young.
Do they still have delis?
I think they base their thing in a lot of different ones. I don't know if it's called the Yellow Deli, but I guess a deli is a pretty good place for a call.
Yeah, I think they still do have delis, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I should go get a 12 tribe sandwich one time.
Yeah.
All right, good job.
Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Is it Kanye's
Special.
This is, okay. All right, realism. I'll explain that whole swastika thing in a second, but. Okay, so, realism was founded by a former sports journalist. I would try and pronounce that, but I really suck at pronouncing anything French, so I'm not gonna try. Who supposedly encountered a race of aliens known as the Alolan while walking through a mountain range in 1973. So, okay, this is the most like text-heavy slide on here, so you don't have to worry about the rest. But so the Alolan are an advanced race of aliens which created humanity, supposedly. All the global religions and myths are based off of interactions with these early beings. So they thought like historical figures like Jesus or Buddha, that they thought that the Elohim were like the parents of them, and they were like half human, half alien prophets or whatever. Another thing is intelligent design for atheists. So they don't think there's a god, but they think that the aliens came and made humanity using science. Which is funny because despite preaching like how much like they're like anti-God, anti-religion really, they really pull a lot of their doctrine straight from the Christian Bible, and it's weird. So they also believe anti-war, which is cool, like that. Cloning, I'm a little worried about. They think that cloning is like one of the main keys to saving humanity, whatever reason. And also genealogy, we'll get to that in a bit. And also free love. They have like pretty progressive views on sexuality, which is cool, but I think it has sort of like predatory to it.
How many you got on my screen?
Okay, so in order to get this information, I had to unfortunately visit the website, braille.org, and which I was greeted with this wonderful. So apparently they were trying to build an embassy. Well, and these are some of the books that I come across with these most amazing, beautiful books. Oh, but wait, there's more. We're not going to talk about this one. Okay. Eventually, I found this. There is a manga for this stupid cult about how humans were created by the Elohim. And yes, I did download the PDF. And yes, I probably got a few viruses. So this is one of the frames from the manga. You don't have to read it, but you can just look at the formatting and guarantee how much effort was put into it.
That's that.
This is Rael, and this is Yahweh, who supposedly was the scientist that created humanity in the first place. All right, so ethical issues. They make some really weird pseudoscientific claims, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is real. This is what actually happened," and it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. They also are like asking for donations to build the alien embassy, but I'm kind of wondering, knowing Rael, I think he kind of pockets all of this stuff. Not saying he does, but just a shot. Predation describes as progress. Like Raelians advocate for like women's rights, which is cool, which is good. But the way he does it has this sort of like, I don't know how to say, predatory taste. I don't know. I would just look at those. They also tried to revitalize the swastika because originally it meant, before the Nazis used it, it was like a symbol of peace or whatever. So they're trying to bring that back, but didn't really work that well. So, yeah,
What you got for
oh, UFO light.
them?
So they built like a museum for like UFOs or whatever, so people they could recruit people to the cult. Also about the swastika thing, they trying to think what they do. Yeah, apparently Rael got a vision from the Elohim saying, "Hey, you should change it. You should stop using the swastika now." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So it definitely wasn't him going back on his decisions which he previously made. It was definitely the aliens. So yeah, that is realism.
One quick question, did they ever try clone?
Huh?
Did they ever try to clone?
No. They did not try cloning.
I think they did.
They did?
Yeah, he cloned. That's.
I never.
Yeah, they tried to clone things. They claimed to have cloned a couple babies. Yeah. Well, yeah.
But how, just wondering how they would get the access to it.
Don't knock yourself down with details.
Oh.
They cloned. All right, good job. Long array, big party. I don't think they really get involved in the actual methods of it. Okay, we're not trying to finish. Let me tell you one more thing about this. I'll tell you really quick. So I think I told you about this, but this was actually in the news about a month ago. Because there's this guy who really needs help named Kanye West, who goes by Ye. He had no idea what he was doing. He found this symbol and thought he basically was doing, he's intensely anti-Semitic. And he tried to say that essentially it was an indirect way of saying that actually Judaism and Nazis were friends. And as you can see from this symbol, there's also the Star of David and the swastika. And therefore, it was implied by the people he found it from that the Holocaust didn't happen. But none of them were smart enough to know that that was just simply the symbol of the alien they happened to found online.
Yeah, no, and then he like made shirts and did a whole.
Yeah, because he made design. And then he got the management winner because he makes fun of Columbus.
Yeah, no, definitely not because he was saying Nazi.
No, it was actually right after. Huh? Can't buy me music. Oh, I should add. Elon Musk just fired 8 workers who tried to start a union yesterday.
Anyone surprised? They asked about it at the White House press briefing.
Did they ask today?
No, yesterday.
Oh, they did.
At the briefing yesterday, and they can't say much. Like kind of supported unions.
Yeah, this is actually more supporting than normal. Cat vibing! Let me find it. Do we have a song we want?
Everybody wants.
Cheers for beers, I love.
Oh, we just found this one. Oh, we gotta see this one. Not gonna see it.
I'd like to hear.
Quit whining. Elon Musk got us.
You were right for this.
No, not on some sides.
Come on, there's 4 of us in here. We can protest. We can get everyone in. Oh, God.
Here we go. Spandau Ballet. Yes, named after a prison camp named after a prison for Nazi war criminals in Germany. I'm not making that up. Come on, let's go. Bye, people. You want to do this. Well, I actually found my phone. I'm telling you. If we really want to